Jomari is a Web3 founder and a system architect building The Village. The Village is an Aptos-based community reinvestment toolkit that takes verified local services to on-chain values and shared community ownership. Jomari has a lot of experience building on various chains, and he understands the differences when it comes to writing smart contracts and interacting with different blockchains. So he has a lot of interesting to say about what it was like to build on the Aptos blockchain. So if you're interested, stay tuned. For the people who are watching this video, could you just introduce yourself, like where you come from, your background, and
Yes.
also the project that you are building on Aptos?
Yes. Good day. My name is Jomari Peterson. I'm from Vallejo, California, originally born and raised. Currently still in California. I came into the Web3 space in 2016, actually. I was interested in decentralized voting, but I didn't call it that at the time. I called it informed voting. And I was really interested in how do
Nice.
people vote on issues that they care about or delegate their authority. Eventually found out it was called liquid voting. And since I learned about this space, I've really fallen in love with the potential, the ability to choose a network, to choose a currency that reflects your own interest and your values really resonated with me. So I've really been happy about the continual growth and development and increasing security of what's being developed and built. My first project was actually the quantum resistant ledger, and it was designed because I was worried about the risks of quantum computing at the time towards basically the entire space and industry. And then there's also other risks and vulnerabilities that I learned about that was just from the literal language. So the move towards using Move as an underlying framework has been very important to me. So that's how I ended up at Aptos, actually.
That's great. You live in California. I didn't know that. Where in California do you live in?
Yeah. Currently, I'm a little bit further north around Sacramento, but I'm from the Bay. I love the Bay. I miss the Bay. I get back as much as I can.
Oh, that's crazy. That's like what, 2 hours, 2 hours away from the Bay Area, right?
Well,
Sacramento.
so technically, I can get to Vallejo, which is the Bay Area, in an hour and a half. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, we live quite closely to each other then.
you're probably in San Francisco or Silicon Valley.
No, I'm more on the East Bay. So
Okay.
I live in this place called Dublin. It's like across the
Yes.
mountain, a bit
Gotcha.
far from
Gotcha.
Palo Alto.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can dig it. I have friends from like, but my wife's family is from like Oakland, Alameda. Got some people up in Tracy.
I see, I see. Yeah, I went to school, I went to UC Berkeley for
Okay.
college. So I live in Berkeley, which is like right
Yes.
above Oakland.
Yes. Berkeley at
Yeah.
blockchain was actually really pivotal towards my introduction to the space. I did a lot of my early presentations with the Berkeley at blockchain group.
No way. You know, I was a
Yeah.
member at Blockchain at Berkeley.
I didn't know, but I figured that once you said you went to Berkeley.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's how I started my whole blockchain journey.
Oh, makes sense.
Wow, small world, right? Small world.
Indeed. It's a small world after all.
Can you also tell us a bit about your project on, the stuff that you're building on Aptos?
Absolutely. So on Aptos, I'm working on civic infrastructure. Well, civic finance infrastructure. It's called the Village. And the concept is really about how do you redefine how a community interacts with each other to create value independent of existing systems. So the first concept that we worked on is time dollar banking. Time dollar banking has already existed, but it really boils down to the ability to say a dollar of service, an hour of service is equal to an hour of time dollars or an hour of work. So essentially, if I babysit you for an hour, I can redeem that for an hour of auditing services. Or if I mow your lawn for an hour, I might be able to have you help me fix my house for an hour. And it creates the ability to not necessarily move in the existing value system of, oh yeah, that's worth $34 versus $17 at work, but saying, hey, because we're community members, I value your time, and the experience you've developed is important, but we trade in basically service to one another. And that allows you then to increase the velocity of value within your ecosystem. And if you do that, that also means that any money that comes in, you're not spending it for those type of services. You're spending on things that you might not have already had access to. So time dollar banking is the first thing. Then we have fractional investment, because we look at places like that have distressed homeowners, like you got the house from your grandma or from your mama, and then you're not able to afford to do the renovations yourself, so then you might not be able to pay for your property taxes, so then you lose the house, which should have been generational wealth for you because you wasn't placed there. But fractional investment allow you to then have maybe community members lend you or pay for a portion of your equity, and then pay for those renovations. And then maybe they don't do that just for your house, but for the entire block. So that raises the equity of all your houses. You're living in a better house. You gave them a little bit of equity, but now everybody is in a better position. And then providing these type of tools to say, okay, and maybe we couldn't afford to pay all that, but you know what? We could have helped you fix the electricity by having the guy down the street that's an electrician earn it, pay for it with his time dollars. So now you're kind of increasing the velocity of money. You're increasing the value of your economic center and your home, your housing. And now you're kind of making a better system, right? Then what other tools can you make? Well, then maybe have a DAO for allocation of resources towards certain projects or things that are there. So as you start piecing these together, you're getting a more holistic ecosystem, but from these discrete modules that work together for a better experience.
Wow, that's amazing. Did you practice that? That was just the way you introduced your project there was just so smooth. That was great.
Well, I did just go through Aptos assembly, so it gave me the opportunity
Oh,
to
I
work
see,
on
I
my
see.
pitch a little bit.
I'm actually really curious. What inspired you to build this project?
Yeah, so this project, the first time I heard about time dollar banking was at my church in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The pastor mentioned it to me. And I tried to do it with spreadsheets and a database, and it was way too complex and too heavy of a lift. And then after working in this space, I saw that this medium via Aptos, via Web3, cryptocurrencies is actually the perfect medium for something like that, because it's a currency. And even if you have to validate it, you can inscribe the rules and then let it work independently. And then you don't have to worry about validating the transactions. You don't have to worry about double spends, because that's all part of the of that core like types, right? So you already have that resource dependent development, so you don't have to worry about it once it's set. And that's actually a fantastic aspect that made it viable. And then fractional, the ability to have fractionalized resources. When opportunity zones first happened, I was like, man, this is actually a really good way of developing an area and actually providing a way for the community to have a piece of ownership in this, while you also take into account like capital gains and all that kind of stuff. And I was able to do it the first time around. And then I saw, like, if you integrate into this more robust system of infrastructure, you actually have a really interesting approach that allows outside investors to participate, but also your people who are there can benefit. And so, yeah, and it's also inside of my book that I just recently launched. Side plug, called Faith the Cryptocurrency. It's one of the concepts that I talk about in the book as well.
Well, that's great. I love that story of the inspiration that drove you to build this project. I'm curious though, you said that you chose Aptos because it was like a perfect chain for your use case. Was there anything specific about Aptos that kind of stood out to you compared to other chains where you were like, oh, this feature is really great for my project?
For me, because we're building civic infrastructure, that's real world asset related. And for us, making sure we found a home that had leadership and growth in that area was important for us. And when it came to the language selection, we also were looking for someone that had a highly secure, a very robust, like verifiable language. Aptos really sat in that space, like growing real world asset exposure and work happening in that space, as well as using Move. Because we have looked at other verifiable like languages, but they're a little bit more esoteric and out there, right? Like you have Camel and things of that nature, and that's a little bit too far for us. So Move really sat inside of a comfortable space for us, as well as demonstrated experience and onboarding for real world assets. So those connectivity and integrations, it was really vital for the consideration for civic infrastructure, or the village more specifically, building our civic infrastructure finance protocol.
So I assume you've had got the chance to work with the Move language already.
Yes.
How was that experience like? What was your first impression of the language? Anything that you like, that you dislike?
nothing that I dislike. It was a definitely required a pivoting in how I was approaching
Right.
the the framework.
Hmm.
So kind of understanding that resource mentality was important.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that was made. And then there was like some smaller intricacies around. Like I think the main issue I hit is around mute, around the use of let mute, like
Yeah.
for mute tables. I hit that so consistently, and okay, wait, okay, I can't do that. So I think around those smaller details, and there's
Mm.
definitely solutions. It's not that it's hard to resolve, but you have to catch it in the compiling, and at least there's clarity around it, and the instructions actually even inside when you hit those errors is pretty clear.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's big gaps and like, oh man, no one ever answered this question. It's like, no, it's there. It's just you just didn't know. So now that you know, how do you fix it and stop doing it?
That's such an interesting point there because that's also one thing that I've noticed when I first kind of learned Move after I joined Aptos is that, I tried to build a simple Move contract myself and I did Aptos Move compile to
Yes,
compile the contract and it gave me a big fat red error message. Obviously, because nothing works
yes,
at first go. That's just how software engineering is.
yes. Not even hello world.
Not
Like
even
even
how,
hello
yeah.
world.
No,
It's like
no.
you are missing a dependency.
Yep. Or you're missing a semicolon, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. But I was really surprised how descriptive the error messages are. Like it tells you
Yes.
exactly where the compilation is failing, like what line and what code. And sometimes it even tells you a hint. It gives you a hint of like,
Yes.
oh, I noticed that you did this, but this expects a reference to this type. Maybe you want to do a
Yes.
reference. And I'm like, oh,
Yes.
okay, I'll add a reference sign in front of the type. And it's so
Yes.
easy to address these errors because of the descriptive hints that the error message gives out.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, especially for me who is more of I call myself language agnostic normally. So
Mm.
I'm picking up what I need to know to implement something and then trying to rapidly prototype and develop it. So having as much information as possible is vital to me because I have no problem solving. But I just need to know what I'm looking for, not just it didn't work. Oh no, what didn't work?
Exactly, exactly. So you're a software engineer to its core, you know? Like real software engineers, they don't really care what language they build on. They'll figure it out. It's just that as long as there's good documentations and good learning
E-
resources. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think we're doing pretty good there. Did you notice when you kind of ran into issues or let's say, or when you needed to find a solution to your problem, did you have a good like a hard time finding the answer, or were the documentations pretty good at that?
So I'm gonna be honest with you. I am a heavy uh cursor ChatGPT Gemini user.
Yep.
So my technique personally is I take the entire documentation and I add that to my index in my repository. So so as long as I have that in there, if I hit an issue, the references for fixing it is normally already there for me. So I don't typically have that issue. Because if it compiles issue, I have the answer and I also have the signal for what went wrong.
Right.
So I don't have long-term problems in Move. Like I think that verifiable nature and the references and having that more stricter structure allows you to resolve problems, especially if you already have a very clear framework already built out for how you're expressing things.
Yep.
It's normally just a few syntax issues.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's also an interesting point. Like Move compiler being quite strict. Some people see that as terrible user developer experience, but actually, when it comes to smart contract development, it's actually worse if the compilation works and during production it fails,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. Yes,
So,
no, it is. And that's the real issue is like, how do you mitigate these issues and how do you in a space that is moving fast,
yeah.
how do you provide the framework and the resources that you need to keep things secure in spite of the speed that everybody should try to move. Sometimes you have to put restrictions somewhere, you have to put the ability to evaluate somewhere, and audits cost crazy money right now. So therefore having this the framework that up front gives you warnings, that tries to protect you, is, I think, vital to a fast moving space such as this. And even when we talk about fast moving, it's funny because when I was telling somebody earlier, like, we talk about the space being young, the internet itself isn't that old for us,
No,
really, honestly. Like, we're
no.
talking 30 for 40 years, and now cryptocurrency itself is what, going on 18, almost 15 years. So it's
Yeah,
like,
something like that.
it's not that young. So therefore, we just need a lot more protections because we're moving quicker. We're moving very fast in spite of that.
Mm, 100%. I remember, so you mentioned kind of taking that mind shift of things around resources in
Yeah.
Move was a bit of a challenge for you. Is that because did you start like smart contract development with Solidity first?
Yes. Yes. I did a lot of projects on Solidity. I did pick up, and a lot of them were integrated projects. So I was doing ones where I was integrating with the existing frameworks.
Yeah.
Because I did Snowball, which was a yield optimizer with Venture Studio on Avalanche,
Mm,
and then so that was the Solidity. Their C chain was the Solidity. So therefore, I did a lot of work with ERC20, ERC 721s, ERC 1155s, and then and those have different. Those each have individual standards, and
right.
then you have new ones you might be trying, like because you're trying to abstract things out. So you're playing around with all these pieces, and and the standards are kind of established external to you, and you just kind of jump in and trying to interface with them. So with that, it's a totally different mindset about how you approach asset creation, and kind of even how you move them, recognize them, wrap them.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I first learned about resources. I was so confused because you know how in Solidity you define a contract state, it just gets stored on the contract inside of
Yeah.
this giant array, right?
Yes.
But for Move, you define a struct and you need to give it the key ability to make it a resource, whatever that is, and and that resource gets stored in some account outside of the Move module. So I was very confused, like where are these contract state being stored? Who owns these contract state? Why is everything going to this external account? Right? I was very confused. But once I understood that Aptos takes a very account-centric approach, where when you deploy a Move module, that Move code gets stored inside of your publisher's account. When
Yes.
you define these resources, which are contract states, those states get stored on the account. And you can
Yes.
define which account it gets stored to. So once I understood that concept, that's when the whole object model clicked in because we have the object
Yes.
model on Aptos as well. And I think the challenging part of understanding objects, at least for me, was that Aptos Move, when it first launched, didn't have objects. But
Oh,
later
really?
on,
Okay.
yeah, it was later on added like a year ago as part of Move 2.0.
Yes.
So now has this hybrid model where you can do everything without dealing with objects, or you can do everything with objects now. And there's more freedom for developers. But now that we have objects, instead of deploying your Move module to your publisher's account, you create an object which is basically another account that lives on chain, and you
Yeah.
store your deployed Move module in that object, which simulates what it looks like on EVM. Because
Yes.
when you deploy a smart contract, a Solidity smart contract in EVM, that contract itself is an account, right? Contract account.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're mimicking that with objects by storing the Move code inside of an object account. Therefore, that
Yeah.
object becoming like your contract account.
Absolutely, yes. No, and that abstraction, I can see it absolutely being helpful, and it really helps when you're trying to expand. For example, I think one of the contracts that I was working out on was the fractionalization of a project, right? And
Mm.
if you're trying to have fractionalized projects, you kind of wanted to abstract the accounts that each fractional project could kind of assign to,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then be able to find those in a deterministic way. So that's those kind of structures do help for that.
100%, 100%. I think objects definitely introduce more flexibility
Uh,
in terms of all these contract states that we define. It's I'm honestly very impressed with Move. The more I learn about it, I would still say I am quite beginner level when it comes to Move. I'm still learning as I
Yeah.
go. But the more I learn about it, the more I'm impressed by the initial design thinking of this language. I think the developers at Facebook days, Aptos
Yes.
started with the Libra DN project,
Yes.
right? I think
Yes.
when they created this Move language, their, I think, number one priority was how do we make it natively support assets that are ownable and transferable, right?
Yes.
So everything is focused on that, and that's where resources came to be. And because resources are transferable and ownable, that makes these contract states very flexible and actually powerful in terms of defining some program logic.
Yes. No. I think that's at the core. At the core is really what was driving their initial ethos for
Mm.
structuring it. So I personally enjoyed it, and that's why I'm excited for the continued work being done to expand the accessibility of it, because we know that the EVM has a lot of open source tooling supporting it.
Yes.
But I think Move as being a stronger language and having that foundation built upon that experience presents itself as a vital contender for being the most approachable. It's really just making sure that we get all those same type of toolings and new age tooling as the space continues to move forward. So I'm very happy with this space, and even in even in my most recent writings, I talk about where Move is in the evolution of the space.
I'm really glad you are having a good time with Move. But like you said, Move is relatively new, so it doesn't have the robust ecosystem of tooling that Solidity has, which is
Yeah,
definitely a challenge for developers if they're used to all these wrapper helper tools.
yeah,
But yeah, I think as we see this language be adopted more, I think those type of ecosystem of tooling will come naturally. And for that to happen, it has to happen from the community. The community has to bring those things. And I was having this conversation with another developer, and they brought up an interesting point because the way Move is designed is that it's a modular and composable language, meaning that everything is a building block. It's like Lego pieces. You can
yes,
define any type or move functions, the helper functions inside of a Move module, deploy that, make those functions public, and you'll be able to import those functions into your other smart contract and use them straight away.
hmm
So it's actually really easy for anyone to add more functions, frameworks like Python or JavaScript. Python and
yeah,
they all have these libraries that developers have built,
yes,
open sourced it, and people can go to npm, download all these packages, and use them
yes.
right out of the box, right?
And that's one thing I will say. I feel like in Solidity, public libraries were actually underused
Mhm.
because of the vulnerability issue and the feeling that you couldn't verify
Yeah.
how something functioned. And that's one thing that's different about Move. You can actually verify functionality
Mm.
in a way that you couldn't there. So the ability to have these public libraries becomes a lot more viable.
Yeah.
So that's I think that's an important part to consider for sure.
Yeah.
And more people should be and then however as you have you also have to have a record for them. So
Mm.
that's one thing you also need then is you're deploying these public libraries, but then having a resource people understand where they are and some source of like, oh yeah, I looked at these and these is what they do, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing I've been a proponent of in the space in general of having better registries,
Mm.
like a decentralized registry of basically of smart contracts that are deployed
Yeah.
and what the attribute and what those attributes are of them.
Mm.
So I think for Move that becomes even more viable because you have a way of verifying them, like automatically as and then having a resource to actually find them of the discovery is vital.
Yeah. We really need these kind of public registry of Move modules. We need that.
No,
That
yeah,
people can go to something like what's that name in Solidity? The
token list.
No, no, no. You know that site that defines all these ERC20 token standards.
OpenZeppelin?
Yes, OpenZeppelin. We need an OpenZeppelin for Move.
Yes,
You know, that people can
absolutely.
just go to and like take all these Move modules and use them because I think this kind of ties really well into our next topic that I wanted to talk about is developer community.
Yeah,
That's one thing, me as DevRel, that wants to facilitate a very vibrant, healthy developer community. And when I say developer community, I mean people like us
yeah,
who can code that are making friends, helping each other out when someone asks a question related to
yes,
move. And if you know the answer, you just step in and be like, "Oh, I actually ran into this problem 3 months ago. Here's how I solved it."
yes,
Seeing these kind of interaction, and therefore creating this supportive culture within our community.
yes,
And and I really want this to happen in Aptos. I just don't see it enough right now. And partially it's because Aptos is relatively new. It's not that new, but it's relatively new. But I think we built up this culture where all of the developers that came to Aptos became reliant on the Aptos internal team, just
okay,
asking questions to us, the Aptos
okay,
employees, because we know best, right? Obviously, like we have a Move team that we have literally the founder of Move on the Move team,
yeah,
right? So obviously they'll know the most.
yeah,
But so I think we built up a culture where people started just relying solely on the Aptos internal teams.
yeah.
But that's I don't think that's a healthy culture. And it's definitely not scalable. Like,
Yeah, no,
um,
it's definitely not scalable. I know historically, things like not Substack, Stack Overflow.
Stack Overflow.
Like that was always a really good model.
Yeah.
I think because they had at least a small internal system for providing badging and help people understand and feeling like they were being rewarded, recognized
Mhm.
for their contribution. So I know we have like the Telegram group and then we have the Discord group,
Yeah.
but there has to be a mechanism for people being able to feel recognized for their contribution and
Yes.
it means something. And I think that's always an important framework to integrate into things as well.
Mm.
Recognition, because even in the old days where there's hackouts, people was like, yeah, you're recognized, and you can add a new tag to
Yeah, yeah,
yourself
yeah.
or whatever. And to be elite meant something to you, right? Like it was intrinsic. Like, yeah, I know I'm elite, and people know I'm elite. So and you want to maintain that status.
You bring up a really interesting point there because Stack Overflow, to be completely frank, has been dying in the recent years because of AI. Because
Yes.
people don't want people like developers. We all have imposter syndrome. Do you know what that is? Right?
Yeah.
Feel
Like,
feeling of not
oh
knowing
no,
enough. You
absolutely
know.
no, no, no. What imposter syndrome is.
I think we all suffer as a software engineer that this imposter
Yeah,
syndrome because there's
yeah,
so much to learn and the learning never stops.
yeah,
So it's always so daunting to ask these questions publicly because you're scared of people judging you and people
yeah,
thinking that you're stupid or something. But so I think now that we have AI that has all of this and trained up based on these public information and can
yeah,
give you an answer more quickly, people started going towards AI to get their
yeah.
questions answered, which kind of removed this whole developers helping developers kind of
Yes,
culture, just in general software engineering industry. It seems like, but interesting is that may work for like general software engineering, but when it comes to smart contract development and blockchain development, because we're so niche and because there's so little information out there,
yeah.
that this Stack Overflow system is actually very, very important.
Yes. No, I mean, because here's the thing. We know that the AI systems are able to extrapolate some, but they're built upon the information and the data that already exists. As
Exactly.
we build new things that have not been covered, those become gaps in knowledge. Those
Yes.
become things that they're further going to hallucinate in because they're trying to figure it out, but they don't have the foundational primitives that might be necessary to interpret it.
Yeah.
And that's where those communities, those people that are on the edge and on the cutting edge of what's happening become more vital,
Hmm.
and them recognizing and knowing that they're on that cutting edge of things is also important. Because I know for me, for example, right, like me doing the time dollar banking, like the asset part of that was clear, but there's actual functionality and pieces in that around validation and around things that communicate
Yeah.
that is novel and new. So when somebody else try to follow up that up, I'm probably going to be the only person that can answer those questions,
Right.
because there's only one repository that has that stuff in it.
Exactly. Exactly. So this is something that has been on my mind recently.
Yes.
It's keeping me up at night, really.
Oh no, no, get
Like,
get your sleep.
yeah, I gotta get my sleep. But man, I want to come up with a system where people like you who knows what they're doing, and because you've went through the struggle of learning all these intricacy of Move and building on Aptos, I want to come up with a system where you guys are recognized for being a supportive developer community member, um, and also just like build up that credibility from people. So let me ask you this, because I think a lot of crypto projects, when it comes to building up community, they go with monetary incentive, meaning,
Mhm.
oh, we'll pay you a couple $100 every month if you say good things about us.
Yeah.
Let me tell you,
But let me say, this somebody need to pay me to say good things about somebody.
yeah, look, but I have to be honest with you, I hate that system. The reason why I say that is that's fake positivity. And everything that those people say who got paid, their opinions doesn't matter at all. No one's going to listen to their opinions.
Yeah.
I think community contributions and opinions only matter when they're actually speaking from their heart, not because they're getting paid to say these things. So when it comes to recognizing developers and incentivizing our developers to be more active on our community channels and be more supportive to others, because these things are kind of selfless acts, right? It's like doing these things, like helping another developer debug their technical problems. It takes time and it's hard, and you're not getting paid to do it. So it's a selfless, voluntary act. But
It's almost like you're talking about an act of service.
yes, that's right. That's right. So I hate monetary incentive. I think it doesn't work. Maybe it works
Yeah.
short term, but I don't like that model.
Yeah.
So I
No.
want to incentivize developers in a non-monetary way. So what do you think, Jamari? What would be a good incentive structure look like to kind of facilitate this kind of vibrant uh, community?
So I mean, ultimately, I think it comes down to people having, like I said, I think at the beginning, like shared values are kind of the foundation of a community, right?
Hmm.
So people are more helpful to each other when they feel like we are in this together, that our contribution is of net benefit to some goal that we share.
Yes.
So that framework is kind of, I think, what you have to operate under, and it might not be monetary, but for some people it is a monetary framework. For other people, it's recognition of their skills. Other people, they have a philosophy that they're trying to accomplish and to see through. Right. So if all the devs are trying to build something so that they have the primitives for it being integrated with the United Nations new fiscal program, right? Well,
Yeah.
then, okay, we're working together, and we're trying to figure that out together because we're sharing a common goal and cause.
Yes.
And I think that's what's important, is getting people to align or find out where their common causes are,
Hmm.
and that would help them and bring their willingness to help people out. So like almost that, like if I'm putting up a problem, being able to tag what type of problem it is, like, oh, this is because I'm working on a primitive for this. So people who are working on those primitives now have a interest in helping you because it's part of their cause, and that type of filtering and almost recommendation engine is one way, I think, to approach it. If you can align people by by interest. Like the problem might be more specific, but they're building it, or they're doing it out of a common desire, and then matching them up by that
Yeah.
could be helpful. So like so I get pinged now when someone's asking a question. It can be technical, but they're asking a question about community development, right? Oh man, no matter what they're asking, I'm going to try to help them find an answer. Not because maybe I know that technical answer, but because I care about the problem that they're trying to solve.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be more willing to even ask them somebody else so that I can answer them, right?
Mhm.
But I can't do that if they're not able to put an attribute, or a tag, or some way of alerting people that find that cause of concern or worthy to them.
Yeah. Wow. That's yeah, you're right. Shared incentives and shared aligned on the goal is going to be a natural incentive for people to care and to want to help out. You're right.
Right.
Yeah, I think for all of these to happen, I think we really need to do a better job of providing an environment for developers to freely mingle and share these kind of thoughts and ideas.
Yeah.
I think right now, as you noticed, we have a Discord channel, we have a Telegram group, we have a GitHub forum, and people don't know where to go, where the real community exists. So I think that's a challenge that we have. So we're working on that. And I keep saying what we're trying to do is that we have an ecosystem team on the foundation who is more business minded, who understands business, who understands how to build a profitable business, who understands how to run operations. And
Yes.
then we have the DevRel team who is technical, who understands Move, all of their developer tooling, how they work, what you can do with them. But both teams are great at their specialties, but they don't know everything. So these two teams need to complement each other to provide a full support for our builders.
Yeah.
That's the whole package that developers should be getting. So
Yes.
what the two teams we're like meeting every day to come up with a funnel, a system where when a developer arrives on Aptos, they don't get thrown here and there to siloed conversations, but they land on this one central builder hub where you have chats for general developer discussions and Q&As, and then there's assembly, and there's move clubs, there's like founders hub where it's only founders who are sharing ideas. There's a job board, like all of this integrated into one place so that they can just go there and just go around, explore through that one central hub, and hopefully find whatever they're looking for.
No, I mean, one of the things that when I first came into the space, like I mentioned, I was looking at informed like voting, or liquid democracy, and one of the concepts that was around that was how do you deliver the information that people need to make the decisions, and the context that they need, for like allocating to somebody else. And I think what you're talking about is a little bit of the same stuff, except for it's a more about like how do you get the information that you need to for changing your code, updating, understanding your frameworks, understanding your setup, like resolving problems. And I know back then my solution was how do you like basically distribute, like summarize people's issues, and then distribute it to the people that can help answer them, or the people that need it more specifically in their type. And I think and this might not be a tool to try to build right now, but I think with the AI summarization aspect of things, and the ability to actually tag stuff and like kind of segment to things, you could actually create a platform essentially where people are. It looked like one hub, but it's actually a personalization type of system where you're getting feeds from things that are matching your past interests and your past discussions. And when you're putting in stuff, it's actually getting replicated, like duplicated into those different frameworks upon what you fit, so that people who are in those various silos are seeing your information and is rising to the top, relevant to the pieces that matters to them. So you can kind of scale out, like more people are seeing it, but only the people that kind of have an interest. And then you kind of have a generalized hub where you can get everything together. But by honing in using like this tooling to more specific people or aspects, you allow the potential for people who care about it to see it instead of being overwhelmed with stuff that they don't care about, right? Because if I go onto a Discord chat or to a help chat, right now I have to read what everybody's problem was.
Yeah.
And that's going to exhaust me. That's going to take all of my bandwidth.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to answer anybody's stuff because I'm done reading what people's problems are.
Yeah.
But if I can come in and then I'm only fed the stuff that I'm capable of answering, or I'm interested in answering, or that's at least adjacent to what I care about, I'm more likely to take an action.
Very interesting point. Huh. I wonder how we can create that.
Because the cognitive bandwidth is too much just
Exactly.
to even find something that I'm helpful with.
Yes. You're so right. I'll have to think about that. See if there's a way to do this. Quick question for you. Just personally, when it comes to having this developer community, do you prefer Telegram or Discord?
I prefer Discord, but
Okay.
that's because I find the channels part better than Telegram's
Yeah.
channels.
Yeah.
I despise the Telegram feed.
Yeah.
I use it because I want to be where the people are, but I hate it.
Yeah. Man, that's the challenge that we're faced with right now. Which do we go with? The current state is our developer community right now is on Telegram.
Mhm.
Our Discord's dead. It has been overrun by scammers and bots, unfortunately.
That's here. I don't know when you came in, but that is what killed Slack for the crypto space. So Slack used to be where it was at. Slack
Really?
was Slack was the go-to spot. Like if you had a project and you was on Slack, that's how you knew you was on it if you was on Slack and your channels. But then they didn't have a way to mitigate phishing and
Yeah.
scams and bots.
Yeah.
Discord. So there was kind of like a dead period where people trying to figure something out, and then they came to Discord because Discord had a lot more robust rules.
Yes.
And then and that was pretty solid for a long time. But then I think it just people found those workarounds. Even when you set a rule of 7 days, then now you have sleeper bots that they'll sit there for the 7 days, and, and,
I
and then like,
know.
hey, and then you want to say, okay, maybe we'll eliminate keywords, but those keywords are needed for a real conversation. So people who want to talk are getting blocked. So then they went to Telegram, and that's because Telegram just has less functionality. It's not because it's really actually better. It's just there's less functionality and pluggable pieces in Telegram.
Yeah.
So that mitigates the issues just because they don't have the functionality that you have everywhere else.
Right.
So Telegram's going to get there too because they're trying to increase functionality. I can see that, and they're going to end up in the same situation.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
That's just my prognosis. I could be wrong. I doubt it, but
No, it's a big problem. We need a place to host our community, but if we want to let it grow, we have to open up. Like right now, our developer group is invite only, so the link is not publicly shared.
I didn't know
So
that.
yeah, so only if we kind of talk to them and realize that they're a developer and they're real, that's when we send them the link privately. But obviously, this is not it won't scale, and we need to open it up, and so we need to moderate the channel somehow. Uh, it's just
It's funny because it makes me think of Stack Overflow again. I don't know if you remember, but Stack Overflow initially like had this filter thing where you had to contribute like some level before you was able to do certain things. And yes, somebody could have an AI contributing, but at least now they're spending resources on answering good questions for a while before they start trying to scam you. So you got to be a good citizen uh, up until it's worth it. But I mean, there's a reason I think it was structured like that.
yeah,
It's because like development is the developers are the best vector for introducing a vulnerability anyways, or finding out of a vulnerability, because we're at the core of the stack.
Yep.
That's why when open source project packages get attacked, it's chaos.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Well, it, I think kind of we're all on the same page of like, you know what, Telegram, Discord, they all have problems. Both of them are not perfect. We're just gonna have to make a decision and stick with it and make the best out of it. So we'll see what happens, and we'll keep you in the loop because you're a part of the community.
Absolutely.
Amazing. I think we're at time now. We talked a lot. And this was a really fantastic conversation, Jamari. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and thoughts, and especially because you have so much passion and drive behind community. I think we had a really interesting conversation about forming an Aptos developer community as well, which is very helpful for me. So,
Glad to be of assistance.
thank you. On a final note, I asked this question to everyone, but where can people follow you and your project? So tell the viewers how they can follow your journey and your project. And if there's one piece of advice that you can share with a new developer thinking about building on Aptos, if there's one thing that you can tell them, what is it?
All right. So Jamari, on Twitter, a good way to find me is Jomari_P. And then I think on Instagram and everything else, I'm just Jamari P. You can also find me on faithandcryptocurrency.com. I have a contact form in there. And if you're a Move developer, or at least your goal is to become a Move developer, it's your first time in the space. My advice would be throw all the documentation into ChatGPT and and uh, and then do the study and learn one to say like, what are the things that I need to understand in here, and this is what my existing skill set is, and go through that. I know it sounds kind of canned, but I think that's the best way. Like, you're not going to absorb everything up front, but allow these tools to become your tool
Yeah.
to access the space. You don't have to know everything, but learn how to do unit tests. Because here's the cool thing: like you have a verifiable framework. So therefore, your unit test and your coverage is really effective ways of determining how close to your goal you really are.
Mhm.
So I think that those are my advice. So I guess one's a real one, and one's like a general, just a good idea.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Jomari, for making the time today, and we'll see you around.
Hasta
Amazing.
luego.